Coffee with Coach. Are you ready to be a post-pandemic pastor? Are you ready to lead a church coming back from a 15-month hibernation? What have we learned from this time? And what must we do now? And how has our examination of church sizes over the last 2 weeks informed us about how we should lead our church? Stick around, and I'll tell you that and more on Coffee with Coach. I'm Steve Petty, and I have 3 goals for these videos: to help you become a better pastor and leader, to save you time and money, to help educate, motivate, and energize you to motivate and energize your church. So the problem is that in the past 15 months, our world has been rocked by the COVID-19 pandemic. Much of the world is still being ravaged by this virus even today. But as we in the United States emerge from its effects, we must recognize that the world has dramatically changed. There is no going back to some idyllic past. We move forward into the misty morning of a new day. What direction should we take? The answer to that will depend on your leadership and your courage. What I am providing for you today is a reminder that how you lead your specifically sized church will make a great difference in how effective your leadership will be. I'll provide some suggestions for each size church we defined: cats, collies, gardens, houses, mansions, ranches, and autonomous nations. And I'll provide links at the end so you can check out each one of those depending on your church size. If you find these videos helpful, I do hope that you will subscribe to my channel, and if you have questions or comments, you can add them below or email me at steve@revstevep.com. Over the past few weeks, I have shared the 7 basic church sizes identified by Lyle Schaller in Looking in the Mirror. You may be thinking that these sizes are simply irrelevant coming out of the pandemic, and there is little to be learned from them. You may be right, but I think they have a lot to teach us. Let me be very specific. If your church is a cat with 0 to 35 in attendance pre-pandemic, your church will be the least affected by the pandemic. Why? Because cats are independent and they feed themselves. If you actually did shut down for the 15 months of the quarantine, your cat probably did just fine. When you open the doors again, the cat will return. It's pretty much the same form it left. You need to do almost nothing to return to what you had before. However, should you want to change the nature of your church, this might be the best opportunity you are going to get. Recognizing you need to influence the family unit to change, you can use this undefined time to talk about things that might be good fun to do going forward. It's a long shot, but it's now or never. Remember, your role as the pastor is to be an influencer. Don't try to lead them even now. They will resist just like they did before. They are, after all, a cat. If your church is a collie with 35 to 100 in pre-pandemic attendance, you might find it takes a bit longer to bring the collie back to the kitchen food bowl of the in-house worship. But remember, the collie wants to be loved, and it does love you. Leverage that love and longing to suggest doing some new things to build up the body. You will need to walk the collie more regularly to show it the love. Do this by visiting people in their homes and workplaces. Use these moments to share some visions of how you would like to see some things changed and upgraded. It will also be a good time to listen carefully to the concerns of the congregation. What did they miss the most? What would help them feel good about the church in the coming months? Encourage them to bring some friends to worship with them. Hold more fun and food events over the summer. Plan now for a great fall. As the pastor of a collie, emphasize the love your people share and be overt about sharing your own love for them. If your church is a garden with 100 to 175 in pre-pandemic attendance, it might take until sometime in the fall to return to your average form from 2019. It will be very important to keep up your online worship for those who are reluctant to go inside. You might consider a simple service on the lawn for those who feel caught in the middle, and another service in the sanctuary for those who are eager to come back. Talk to your team about ways to build up the community over the summer. Think about fun events from past years that people remember fondly and bring them back, all the while planning for a big old-fashioned rally day in the fall with a full slate of events planned through Christmas. Now would also be a good time to create a lay visitation team to care for the whole congregation. Multiply your pastoral care by training a dozen people to become lay pastors, doing regular visitation on the homebound, making hospital calls to the non-critical patients, and phone calls to the really lonely. Since this is a garden, there are crops you used to harvest in summer and fall that may have missed last year. How fast and how fully can you plant in order to harvest in normal time? You'll need to give attention to all the crops in the garden, and don't forget to feed the dog. If your church is a house with 175 to 225, everything in the garden will apply. But you will need to talk with your team about every subgroup, fellowship group, study group that were doing things pre-pandemic. Which ones do you need to bring back? Which ones should we let finally die? While a few all-church events will be very important, each identifiable group will also need some special rekindling events. There's an opportunity while doing that. With what new groups do you want to start up and invite people to as they look for people and places to connect with in the summer and fall coming out of the pandemic? Again, at every event, talk about the great calendar of events planned for now through Christmas. As the pastor of a house, remember that the staff, both paid and volunteer, are critical to the organization. Make sure to have several in-person team-building events over the summer. It's not enough to just plan for fall. You have to build the team back up so that they are working well as a team and are really prepared to operate the house. If your church is a mansion with 225 to 450 in attendance, or a ranch with up to 1,000 in pre-pandemic attendance, you need to be aware of everything for the garden and the house. But the key energy building group in mansions and ranches are the leadership teams. Everyone did their part in making online worship happen, but now you must shift to a new design. How many staff will be working on the in-house worship? How many staff will be doing online worship? And how many will be expected to do double duty? Are there any problems between staff which have cropped up in the past 15 months? How do you work to heal those? What can you do to build up the teamwork and collegiality of the leadership team? As you look at the full calendar, which programs will be most important to restart now, and which can wait until next year? How do you leverage the skills of the team to lead the whole church? As the pastor, you are the only one who is tasked with building up and caring for the leadership team. You cannot lead the church without this group, and you are the only one who can lead it. If your church is an autonomous nation, well, you're probably not watching this video. But much of what we have shared so far will apply to the autonomous nation churches as well. Most of these churches had already developed well-established live presence and online presence for worship. But going forward, we may well see that 40 to 60% of our small group studies, work groups, committees, etc. will be in video chat rooms. People like the tighter schedule, the quicker meetings, less travel time and expense, and will not quickly go back to the old way of having long, boring meetings at church. More studies will be online, leaving in-person events for a more social nature. We will study and work from home and have fun when we are together. The pastor who gets in front of that trend will be able to pivot their church now to take full advantage of it. This is a critical time for our churches. We have taught people that we can have meaningful spiritual events without coming together on Sunday. Our people have taught us that they are perfectly fine watching their Sunday worship events at any available time that works best in their schedule. Before the pandemic, we were competing with youth sports, professional sports, and a desire to sleep in on Sundays. But after the pandemic, we are competing with TikTok, YouTube videos, and internet TV on demand. Combine those trends with a long-standing trend away from organized religion as a source of division, judgment, political pandering, and more hate than love, and you can see that the road ahead is rocky indeed. The one thing I am certain of is this: pastors who know how to lead their church will be better able to navigate their church through these perilous waters. What all these churches will need right now is a pastor who is willing to spend their time and energy loving and leading their church. Well, that's it for today. If you find these videos valuable, I hope you will subscribe to my channel. And if you have questions or comments, as I said, please send them along to steve@revstevep.com. So until next week, have a great cup of coffee. And I'll see you next week on Coffee with Coach.